Hello and welcome to this tutorial about Locize with Next right now. So in this tutorial we are going to see how to create a new project, how to configure stages, languages and basic security and performances as well through HTTP headers and such. So first thing first, when you create a new account on Locize, which basically you can do by going here and no account yet. So what is important here is, well, nothing is really important here. So just create one. And then you go to the locize.app or the locize.io. It's the same thing. They have both domain and they are currently migrating from .io to the .app version. So I'm going to use the .app version. So you're here and you don't have anything. You have to create a new project. When you create a new project, there are a few important things. Well, those are your choices. The reference language is quite important. It must be the language you are familiar with. Like for me, I'm French, it's French. And a secondary language that I use is English. But because in my workflow, I write everything in French first, and then I translate it to English, then French is my reference language. And it is a language that I use by default in the source code when I write translation. So, okay, I'll show you the source code is in English, of course. But let's see, for instance, here we have a translation, right? Using the T function that comes from use translation, which comes from React E18next. And the T function, here we have got the key, and we have the translation. And the translation is in French, because French is my reference language. So I write some French in my English source code, but only from translation. So this is important. It will be French for me. Then you have the format. The format is important. It must be E18next Localizify. I have not tried any other, but we are using E18next, so you must use E18next format. And for the publish format, you must use git and nested. The auto thing is not a good idea at all, because it may change at any time how your file will be computed. Like it will use flat by default, and then if you use a nested, like a dot in your key here, I use dot, and if you do that, then this part is going to be nested, and you may end up with flat plus nested format, and it gets complicated. So that's it for this. When you start, you only have the latest version. I have added a production version as well, so let's see that. So we have two versions, latest and the production, right? So those are two different versions. Latest is used during local development and for the staging stage, while production is only used in production. So this helps you work on the latest version without breaking production, and you have to manually update the production export to update the production. So let's go with latest. We have French and English, and if we go to the settings, or first before the settings. We have also a namespace. So the namespace we use is a common one. By default, I believe they use a namespace that is called latest. I deleted it and I created my own common, which when you build an app, you may end up with tons of different translation, right? And you may want to split those translation between namespaces. And your namespace can be the page name or something similar or anything really. But for the sake of simplicity, we use only one namespace, which is a common namespace, which contains everything in our app because our app contains 12 keys. So we really don't need to over-complexify it with multiple namespaces. So look into namespaces if you have a lot of keys and you want to increase performance, especially network performances, when it only retrieve a smaller set of keys. Okay, let's go to the settings. So you have different stuff here, and you can change the nested publish format here if you missed it during creating your account. You have optional stuff like here, but what interests us the most is this part. So you can publish a new version at any time. So the latest is auto-publishing. So anytime something changes to the latest version, it auto-publish changes to the API. Production doesn't do that. So when I want to make my production version up to date with my latest, I use override with data from latest, save, and that's it. And now I need to publish it. And now I'm up to date with latest, if I wasn't already. Private publish is something that you probably don't want to use. It's advanced option, I may say. So ignore it for now. And here you have your project ID. And that is what you need to use in the example. So here you have Locize project ID, you need to use this ID. And you have the API key below, which I won't show in the video for obvious reasons. You can add new versions if you want to. So if you use a multi-tenant system, you may want to have one production per tenant. So production for customer 1 and production for customer 2, and then the latest that is for all of them, or maybe dedicated to one of them. You can use those versions to link a customer to one particular version of the locales, and thus have dedicated custom wording per customer, which can be really nice depending on your use cases. One important thing here is to change control max age. So for production, you may want to set it to something like this, which is, I don't remember, but a day, I believe. So production is as a cache of 1 day. So once a browser downloads it, it won't download it for the next day. I advise you to use a cache control max age for production and not using any for latest. Okay, then you have some advanced stuff like services. This is interesting if you need it. Some translation services, it can be configured to Slack. I haven't done it and I don't know what it does, but I don't need it. You have a webhook which can come in handy, and you have tags which are quite useful. Like if you want to tag your content, you can use tags, and it can be quite helpful with internal workflow, like reviewing all this, and then you have to review all this and applying tags so that people may know what is meant to be reviewed in what language and stuff. I enabled this. Well, it's free, so I enabled it, and it provides some kind of similar translation when it recognizes similar content. I haven't used it much, to be honest. And then you have the backups, which is really awesome to have all your backups and be able to download all of them from here. So really, really handy. Okay, so now that we have seen the settings part, and by now what you need to do is to create 2 stages, 2 languages, or well, at least one. But if you're trying to duplicate the demo, then you will need 2 languages, and then you can start doing things here. So because you created it, it's going to be empty for you, right? But if you start your application here in a local development, then all the keys that are not found are going to be added with the default value for the reference language. So with this base code, if you create the French language, all the keys are going to be created, and all the sentences for all keys will have default values for the French language, and you will only have to translate the English language manually. You can switch languages there. Yeah. Well, that's it for Locize. I believe I've covered most of it. The support is awesome, so don't hesitate to contact them if you have some issues. And yep, that's it. Don't hesitate to ask if you need something else that wasn't covered by the video. Thank you.